Inside the pitch-black tunnel, water drips from the ceiling onto the dirt below. Graffiti covers the walls, and the ground is strewn with trash. From the darkness of the tunnel she approaches, a long-haired woman in white, her clothes drenched in blood, her eyes wide open in fear. She raises her pale arms and frantically screams for help, then vanishes. Is she the victim of a massacre, left to die in the darkness of the abandoned tunnel? Deep within the mountains of Fukuoka Prefecture, Kasiya District, between Miyawaka City and Hisayama Town, lies Inunaki Mountain Pass. The name Inunaki can roughly be translated into English as Howling Dog Pass, or Crying Dog Pass. The origin of this unusual name is unclear, but there are numerous theories. In a text entitled Inunaruyama Kotomi, the author says, "This mountain is called Inobu. There is a waterfall at the entrance to the valley on the way to Kuhara. A long time ago, a wolf came to the waterfall but could not climb up, so it just sat and howled sadly." Another theory states that the valley is so deep and steep that even dogs could not climb out and would just sit and howl. The mountain road is part of National Route 21. It has continuous hairpin bends and a 150-meter-long tunnel. The original tunnel was very narrow, making it hard to pass through. Additionally, since the surrounding area is so mountainous, the road is often closed due to heavy rain and snow, making the pass a dangerous place to travel through even today. Many accidents occur there every year due to the adverse weather conditions. Even so, there is still a lot of traffic, even in the middle of the night, as there is a large car manufacturing plant nearby. Few people would wish to drive large trucks over such a dangerous pass. Even fewer would want to drive over one with such a fearful reputation. It is said that the pass was first opened in the Edo period, between 1615 and 1623. Even then it was reputed to be a very bad road, and was used by very few people. Merchants visiting the village would often cross a different pass early in the morning, and then stay overnight in the village to avoid crossing the pass in the dark. Construction of the tunnel and the road began in 1884, but had to be suspended due to the cost and the lack of adequate technology. Construction began again in 1927, and the road finally opened on November 3rd, 1949. Even when it was new, the road was rarely used, as it was thought of as an uncanny, eerie place. In fact, this whole area has a rather ominous reputation. There are several old tombs built near Inunari village. One in particular, called Rojin's Tomb, was said to have such an air of resentment about it that long ago the villagers were too scared to even approach it. Legend states that near the tunnel there is a fearful village beyond the reach of the control of the government, Inunari village. It is said that those who enter the village can never return. Since suffering discrimination since the Edo period, the villagers closed themselves off to the outside world and began living a life of self-sufficiency. Stereotypically, the legend also infers that inbreeding is common in the village. At the entrance to the supposed village stands a sign reading, "The Japanese Constitution does not apply here." It is rumoured that any information about the village, including its location on maps, has been erased from administrative records. In order to find the village, one should go to the entrance of the tunnel. In front of the tunnel, a sign stands reading, "Please take a detour by the white sedan." This is in reference to a battered white sedan found nearby. The legend is unclear if this is a car or a sedan chair, but if the village cut itself off in the Edo period, it is unlikely that they have cars. The villagers have supposedly built an early warning system to defend themselves from intruders, made from string and tin cans, and that they warn each other of intruders by using kites. Some have said that the villagers can run abnormally fast. Typically, mobile phones of all kinds cannot function near the village, and public telephones at nearby convenience stores mysteriously cannot contact the police. Finally, the legend states that a young couple entered the village for fun and were slaughtered. On December 7th, in Tagawa City, a 20-year-old factory worker was driving home from work. He was a shy and quiet young man who gave most of his small salary to his mother. Stopping at the traffic lights, he was shocked to see 5 teenagers suddenly approach his car. They aggressively blocked the road and said, "Lend us your car." The man refused and turned the engine off. Suddenly, the boys became enraged. They dragged him from the car and beat him. Taking him and the car, they drove to a nearby house where they locked him up. At 2 a.m., when he was sure the teenagers were asleep, he stole out of the house and ran 2 kilometers towards his home. Unfortunately, the boys found him on the street, and this time took him to Inunaki Tunnel. There they beat him with an iron bar as he clung to a chain-link fence. Realizing that they could not let the man go, the boys bound his hands and feet and dragged him into the darkness of the tunnel. In an act of senseless violence, they beat him with a rock, and finally poured gasoline on him and set him alight. Somehow, despite the unimaginable pain, the man got up and ran to the entrance of the tunnel, where he finally collapsed and died. On December 9th, 1988, the group of 5 teenagers, aged between 16 and 19, were arrested. The main perpetrator was sentenced to life in prison for the murder. However, some commentators on the internet imply that he was released early and has returned to work with gangs in the area. In 2000, a body was found in the lake of a nearby dam. Since dams are a common place to commit suicide in Japan, it is possible that this individual chose to end their life in this sad place. Now the tunnel lies sealed behind the treacherous mountain roads, at risk of collapse from groundwater damage as it drips into the bare earth. It was closed and blocked off with large concrete blocks. These blocks have since been vandalized, an unusual sight in Japan. Since the place is widely considered to be cursed, and vandalism is considered to be extremely disrespectful, it is a mystery why people would desecrate the site of this tragedy. Due to the number of thrill-seekers who are drawn to visit this site, local police have erected fences and CCTV cameras. The police stated that this was to prevent illegal dumping of waste and to stop biker gangs from congregating there. The story of the cursed village is so well known that Takeshi Shimizu, known internationally for directing Ju-on the Grudge, is set to release a movie about the village in 2020. However, there is no proof that it is anything more than an urban legend. Nor is there any evidence that people in the area suffered from discrimination. In fact, the ancestors of the Inunaki family are enshrined in a nearby temple. If it were true that the villagers were discriminated against, it is unlikely that the priests would have honoured them at the temple. A Mr. Kuni Naizen wrote about the area in 1729, and although he reported that some people living there had shunned the outside world and were living self-sufficiently, he does not indicate that they were suffering discrimination. Additionally, due to the trade route, there were many people coming and going every day, but there were no records of dangerous villages or mysterious deaths. The tunnel is famous all over the country as an extremely haunted place. A famous medium reputedly refused to enter, due to the strong sense of malice that they felt coming from it. So, do the blood-stained vengeful spirits still lurk in its darkness? Well, while the ghost of the woman has often been reported in the tunnel, her identity cannot be ascertained. If anyone should be haunting Inunaki Tunnel, it should be the man who was brutally murdered there. As is often the case, urban legends have covered up the truth, the tragic death of a man with family, friends, and hopes for the future. In respect for his passing, we should not forget that behind some urban legends, real tragedy exists.